Hey, good evening, all you happy people. Welcome to the Dan Wickline Show. It is Sunday, November 16th, and I know holidays are starting to creep up, getting closer and closer. You guys got to get ready for Thanksgiving and then Christmas, and well, that's what's going on. Football season's still well underway. Baseball has wrapped up. Uh, Again, congrats to the Dodgers. But football, uh, I continue my love for the Carolina Panthers, even though I'm on the complete opposite coast. That's why it's hard. I mean, I like own a hat, a couple of the old jerseys, but besides, hard time finding my size. But no, we don't get a lot of Carolina Panther stuff out here in California, which is a shame because they're a great team. They're fun. They've had some amazing players, and would love to see them get some more nationwide exposure. But yeah, tonight they had a bad start to the game. They were at one point down 21-7, I think it was, and bounced back and won it. No, yeah, 21. They were down. They ended up winning 30-27 in overtime on a kick by Ryan Fitzgerald. Bryce Young had a career day for him. 448 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. I mean, it's now a Panther record, but used to be held by Cam Newton. And this was coming off a week where everybody was like, no, Bryce is horrible. Bryce can't be a franchise quarterback. And then he just comes out and goes, here I am. So good for him. Good for him. Good game. Glad to see them come around. Xavier Legette and Taylor McMillan both had really good games. So I am a happy Panther fan right now. But that's not what you guys come here to talk about. But if you wanted to, you could. I mean, I am always open to sports talk if you guys want to do that. It's funny. I was talking about how I don't have a lot of people to talk baseball with or sports at all. And when I went to one of my doctors on Thursday, he immediately started talking about the Dodgers, and I got to have a good half hour or so conversation just about the World Series and everything that happened, and that was fun. And he's a guy that it's interesting. I've been going to him for years and years, and every time I see him, he's got some different thing he needs to tell me. Hey Ed, good to see you. He wants to know. What's going on with Loki, or how does Moon Knight fit into the MCU, or what's going on. Yeah. So I've been his superhero whisperer for quite a few years now. So every time there's something he wants to talk about, that pops up. So let's try this button. Hey, look, Ed, I don't know if you guys can see that, but I can see it. So cool. That allows me to go over here when I need to. Okay. So we got a few more people pop on. Hi, hope you're having a good evening. Tonight we're going to talk about a couple different things. One of the things I do want to talk about is the word about Brainiac, but a couple other things I want to cover first. In Marvel news, Ryan Coogler has stated that Black Panther 3 will be his next movie. He will be working on that next, which is awesome. It's kind of curious to see how that's going to play out because, of course, we had Chadwick Boseman in the first movie, and then he passed away after reprising the role in the two Avengers films, Endgame and Infinity War. And then, of course, Letitia Wright playing Shuri took over the mantle of Black Panther in number 2 in Wakanda Forever, which I don't think that movie gets as much love as it deserves. It's not as good as the first Black Panther, but it also had to serve multiple masters in the sense it had to be a send-off for Chadwick Boseman and an introduction of her as Shuri. So yeah, it's tough. I mean, it was a tough movie to make, but I think he did remarkably well for it. Also, I love the Namor's portrayal. I can't remember the actor's name off the top of my head. I know it begins with a T. But having said Tedero McMillan earlier is kind of stuck in my head. Apparently, YouTube didn't like my sports analogy. Pass the puck in the hoop, past the blue line during the 8th inning dance party. Uh-huh. Okay, so Black Panther 3 is coming out. Now, will this be affected by the upcoming Avengers movies? Will we get a different Black Panther? That all remains to be seen, but we do know that Denzel Washington's supposed to be in it. He made that slip a year or so back, where he said that Ryan Coogler was actually going to write a role for him. So Denzel in the MCU, I think, is an awesome idea. But yeah, so that's coming up. DC Variety is saying that DC has a show coming up which will feature Jimmy Olsen, Skylar Gisondo, and it's going to focus on the villains in the DC universe. Now, they said it was called DC Crime, and it would star, like I said, Jimmy Olsen, but the first season would focus on Gorilla Grodd. Tinoch Huerta. Thank you, Jay. So that's pretty cool that they're going to do that. But James Gunn came out and specifically debunked it. Not that the series, not that Jimmy Olsen's leading the series, not that it's Gorilla Grodd. He just debunked the name. He said there's never been, nor is there, a project called DC Crime, which is a horrible title anyway. But he said that, and then he followed it up with a post going, but that doesn't mean the rest of the article is false. Well done, James. It just seems like, coming in, it's like when somebody rips off a whole line of insults and you pick on the one to go, hey, I'm not that. So that's pretty funny. So a Jimmy Olsen series is in the works. It's supposed to, and other reports have the other characters coming back as well. Grant, Perry White. So they're supposed to appear as well. Beck Bennett's Steve. Yep, can't think of Steve's last name, the sports guy. That's what I have Jay here for. Jay's not even my producer anymore, but he's like Lombard. See, there it is. There's Jay. Jay is my Coach Beard to my Ted Lasso. Just the way it is. So, all right. So that's coming out. There's some other stuff going on. Michael Giacchino is saying that he's going to be following up Werewolf by Night with a sequel of some sort, which I think is awesome. I loved Werewolf by Night, and I appreciated for Ed that they finally released a color version as well, so Ed could enjoy it. And hopefully, if they do black and white again, they'll do the same thing by putting a color one out. Jay says he doesn't know sports. Okay, so let's put that aside now. I watched a movie last night that was really, really bad. But it was so bad and so silly that it almost came back around to being fun. You've seen movies like that where you're like, wow, this script is horrible. Wow, the acting is atrocious. And I can't stop watching it because I kind of want to see what happens next. Well, that is a new Amazon Prime movie called Playdate. Playdate stars Kevin James and Alan Ritchson. And Alan Ritchson in this show is hilarious. Hey, Mr. Nope, good to see you. Richson is absolutely hilarious. Kevin James, he's kind of stuck playing the straight man to Alan Richson, which makes no sense to me. How did that happen? But it also works. And there's two kids in it, and there's a lot of action, so makes sense that you get Alan Richson. A lot of weird. The script is predictable. There's a couple things in it that I like paused it, leaned over to Lisa, and went, "That's what this means. You'll see," or "That's who the bad guy is. We'll find out later." And she didn't care because it wasn't that good, you know. So story wise, but it's a comedic version of Reacher in a way. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I am stunned how good comedic timing, how strong his comedic timing is for Alan Richson, and how off Kevin James was. I expected more from James, and I was blown away by Richson. Does that make sense? But it's only a 90-minute movie. And hey, we're dopes. Yeah, I mean, if you get a chance and you're looking for just silly fun, give it a shot. You may tap out. And just one caveat. There's a chunk of the movie that is Kevin James in the beginning. You have to sit through that. It's the moment Alan Richson enters the film. That's when it gets interesting. That's when it gets fun. The stuff with Kevin James, it's kind of, I don't know, awkward and uncomfortable a little bit. And yeah, so you have to sit through the Kevin James setup part to get to Alan Richson. But after that, it's just stupid fun. So that's on Prime if you have Prime. And by the way, Prime is probably one of the best deals of all the streaming services, you know, because it pays itself back when you, if you actually buy things from Amazon because it's a free shipping. And it's like, okay, that, and then, and you also get a streaming service with a bunch of good shows on it. You know, they have Critical Role. They have Mighty Nine just debuted. I haven't watched it yet, but I plan on it. But yeah, so I like Prime. It gets a little strange sometimes because they've got so many other channels that you could tap into. But overall, what they put on Prime is pretty cool. So, all right. Let's get to the big conversation. The reason we are here today. Brainiac. That's right. Variety, was it Variety? No. Oh, The Wrap. The Wrap came out and said that Brainiac will be the villain for Man of Tomorrow. And the only thing James Gunn has done in response to that, and this is the same guy that put out a script with a picture on the title page of a human brain, or of a skull, you know, a human's body with the head sliced so you could see the brain and all that. So what did he do to follow it up? He showed a picture of the mapping of brain cells. I think it's a pretty good chance it's going to be Brainiac. Plus, if you think about it, just about every Superman movie, the sequel was going to be Brainiac, or the ones that didn't happen, like the Kevin Smith one he wrote, or Superman. I mean, that was going to be Brainiac. They go to Brainiac. I mean, because I love that Superman has a cadre of villains. He's got Parasite and Bloodsport and Mongol, and there's a lot of villains you could throw at Superman, but there's three that they go to: Lex Luthor, General Zod, and then they want to go to Brainiac. And they've been unsuccessful with that so many times. The only time live action Brainiac I've seen is on the show Krypton. And I'm pretty sure the number of people watching Krypton is about the same as the people watching this thing right now. I was one of them. Barry Ritson as Brainiac was really good. There was a good storyline. The guy, Sean, can't think of his last name right now, but the guy that played Adam Strange, who was in Reacher Season 2 as one of the Reacher's crew, was great. Overall, I thought it was a good show. I was a fan. Oh, that's right. Marsters was on Smallville. I forgot about that. But he never looked like, looked like James Marsters. He looked like Spike. God, I feel bad forgetting about that one too. Anyway, so those are the only live action Brainiacs we've gotten were on TV shows. The Brainiac they had in Supergirl was pretty good, even though he was the good version of Brainiac. He was basically Brainiac 5, a descendant of the original Brainiac. And he's always been part of the Legion of Superheroes. And I've kind of divorced those two. I kind of separate them out now because, Brainiac 5 has always been a much better or a good guy. So when I think of Brainiac, I don't necessarily think of Brainiac 5, even though, plus the origins keep changing for Brainiac. One time he's a Kalu. I think it's Colu is the alien race that he is. And then another time he's just an AI created by the people of Krypton. It's very different. See, that's the simpatico thing we got, Jay. So I did some research on Brainiac. This is a character who is one of the most enduring and significant villains in the Superman mythos, right? We've gotten, like I said, Lex and General Zod and Brainiac were kind of the biggies. Well, over the decade, Brainiac's character has been reimagined and expanded on. This character has looked so different so many times. I'm gonna do this. All right. Sean Sipos. Yes, Sean Sipos. By the way, Sean Sipos is awesome because I would text him. Not text him. I would he was on Twitter, and I would message, include him on messages and stuff I would post about the show, and he would actively respond. Both him and Wallace Day from the show, both were regular respondents to the things I wrote. This is back when I was at Bleeding Cool, and he was very friendly and always got back to me on stuff, as did Wallace Day. And Wallace, of course, I sent her a note one day saying that they're looking for a new Batwoman on the Batwoman show, and she ended up ending up on the show. So, but those guys were great, and I did love that show. But all right, so this is going to be kind of a history of Brainiac. Now, we're going to start off with, this is what Brainiac looked like in the beginning. This was pretty much, he looked like a human with, he looked like Lex Luthor, but green with little electrodes on his head. Like if they needed to take an EKG or, measure his brain waves, those things are there. And that's what he looked like. And he wore pink. He wore a pink outfit and green. Pink and green, because those are two colors you want together, right? Pink and green. All right. From there, they went to John Byrne kind of did, I think it was John Byrne, did kind of a revamp on him, or maybe it was before John Byrne. And he became a robot, an AI. This was Brainiac for a lot of years. Completely different, right? Then again, there was, after that, let's see, we got Gary Frank's version. The Dave Bautista is playing. I don't know. That's bad for Bautista, but the big guy version of Brainiac, because I'm not sure why Brainiac needs to be on steroids, but they did that version. Then, of course, there's the animated version. Doesn't look like any of the other characters. Mind you, when they say it's Brainiac, you go, oh, yeah, I totally see that. Because Brainiac is blue-skinned and wears purple and silver. Brainiac Smash, nice. All right, well, and after Brainiac, we got the live-action version on Krypton. It almost feels like he's got to pull his skin just a little tighter. It's a little loose. Just got to tighten that up. Maybe take a chip clip, put it in the back. Yeah, but he's got the little dots on his head. It kind of feels like classic Brainiac, right? All right. From there, we have the video game version of him. Again, Hulk or Brainiac Smash. But this is, I think, Injustice video game. Think. But just in case you missed it, there was a time that he even looked like this. I'm not sure why he's wearing shorts. And high-cut shorts at that. Why Brainiac decided I need to show some leg. Yeah. So Brainiac's had a lot of looks that were very different. Too many abs for one cover. But so that's part of the thing with Brainiac is that he's had so many different looks. So when James Gunn says, I'm going to make a Brainiac character, which one's he going to do? Is he going for the original, the slightly modified version with the shorts? Is he going for the robotic one? Is he going for the muscle-bound one? More accurate for what they did on live action? Or there's even a version that he's kind of stuck inside a machine, which means that all you really need is a talking head. So that's what, I'm going to get to fan casting, but that's kind of my thought on that. Is it's hard to fan cast a character when you don't know the version James Gunn is going to pick. Also, you don't know his personality. There's versions of him that are very robotic. There are other versions of him that are just kind of cold and calculating. And there's more human versions too. So you don't even know what background's going to be. But for those of you who don't know Brainiac's background, he was first introduced in Action Comics 242 in July of 1958. It was created by Otto Binder and artist Al Pastino. Now, there's something you should know. First thing, they got the name Brainiac by combining two words, brain and maniac, and pushed together to get Brainiac. Now, if you're thinking, they didn't make up that word, Brainiac's always been as a pejorative for being too brainy or too nerdy. Well, that's not true. They did coin that phrase. They invented the term Brainiac. It was then from there, hey, Slipknot, from there, the term Brainiac started being applied as a pejorative for overly smart people or nerdy people. So, yeah, Brainiac totally came first, the character, before the term. Let's see. Jay says, one that looks like Mark Strong. I want Batista for Hugo Strange. See, Dan knew what I was about to type. Yeah. So, 1958, they created Brainiac and the Word. And, of course, he was the green-skinned humanoid alien with advanced technology, and he's got a thing for shrinking cities. It's kind of what he does. His initial appearance established him as a collector of worlds, and he was motivated by a desire to acquire knowledge and preserve civilizations in the most bizarre way. As he would like, okay, I'm going to take this city and then destroy the rest of it. So I have the only one. So it isn't that he just wants to preserve civilizations. He wants to be the one that owns them. He wants to be the only one with that civilization. Now, during the Silver Age, he was depicted as a Coluan scientist. I think that's what they spell it Coluan, Coluan. So he was from Colu. And that was his thing. Like I said, he shrank the Kryptonian city of Kandor, and some versions of the stories have him as being the catalyst that destroyed Krypton, while others, of course, it's their own hubris. But either way, he does play a line in it, and he does save the city of Kandor. And of course, that plays into a lot of things as well later on. Now, Bob for Brainiac, Lewis Pullman. Nice. I've got some casting ideas coming up, but now in the 80s, of course, now I showed you that robotic version. That's where he went under that kind of significant change. The character was redesigned to appear more robotic and menacing because, AI? No, that was way before AI. But this took place in Action Comics 544 in 1983. So he's kind of a skeletal computer-like being with the giant head with a brain in it. Then, of course, Crisis on Infinite Earth happens, and they kind of streamline the continuity. Brainiac's origin is reworked once again, and now they have him as an artificial intelligence from Clu rather than a living organism. So he's no longer even alive. He's just an AI at that point. Now, various storylines delved into his desire to assimilate knowledge and control, sometimes linking him directly to the destruction of Krypton, like I said. Now, later interpretations also explored his ability to transfer his consciousness from one body to another, which makes sense for an AI. That's just moving a program. Now, he then, of course, showed up in stuff like as Superman the Animated Series, Justice League Unlimited, in Justice 2 video game, a couple live actions with Smallville and Krypton. So he is on that pantheon of Superman villains, but he's just one that they have a hard time getting to. It's like, we're going to start with Lex Luthor because that's what you do. Oh, we're going to go to General Zod because that's what you do. Oh, what are we doing next? Brainiac? Oh, we're out. So now, what does this mean for the DCU? Well, there's a lot of possibilities. They could go, the first thing that came to my mind when I heard about it is the planet Salvation that was introduced in the season 2 of Peacemaker. Now, in the comics, Salvation Run, where the planet Salvation is introduced, is a training ground for parademons for Darkseid's army. So the planet is totally tied into Darkseid. Well, James Gunn has said, nay, we're not going Darkseid, but we are doing something with Salvation. So what if Salvation is actually not a full planet? What if it's a captured area of the planet and part of Brainiac's menagerie, his collection of bottled cities? In which case, he's suddenly seeing these new people pop up. He starts to investigate, listens in, and here's one of them mentioning a Kryptonian that he was certain were all dead. Because other than Kandor, he had gotten rid of them. So that would lead to him wanting to go to Earth to find this missing Kryptonian. So that could be a way to make Man of Tomorrow happen. Depending on what they want to do with Salvation, but you could tie all that together, and I think that would be interesting approach. But, Brainiac is definitely a threat that's big enough to warrant Lex and Superman putting their differences aside to save the planet. So I think it's right. And as soon as Man of Tomorrow was announced, everybody assumed it was Brainiac. The picture on the front page of the script really pushed people towards that. But also, there aren't that many Superman villains that would justify it. So they would either have to step out of Superman by himself and go to somebody like Darkseid, or, is there enough of a reason for Parasite to get the two of them together? Yeah. The Man of Tomorrow animated movie was enough to bring Lex and Lobo and Superman together to stop Parasite. But that doesn't seem like a major motion picture type of fight. So I think you needed somebody of a bigger threat, and Brainiac fits that bill perfectly. Now, again, talking about the fan casting, we don't know what the character's going to be. Is he going to be the green skinned guy? Is he going to be the T-1000 with a bobblehead? What is this guy going to be? So it's really hard to say, oh, it's going to be this guy or that guy. Let's see. Jay says, my fan casting from when the DCU was first announced was Scott Adkins. He's an actor I've always wanted for Batman or a Ninjak for Valiant, but that time might have passed. I was going for an unconventional casting. Interesting. That's not bad. Now, there are some reports out there of who are supposedly being talked to, and it's a very wide description of these people. To start with is Claes Bang, who some of you may have never heard of him. But if you know about the Stephen Moffat, Mark Gatiss version of Dracula from a few years ago, that's Claes Bang from playing Dracula. He looks a little bit like Mark Strong with hair. So you could see him, saw him in The Northman. Okay. So I could see Claes Bang being the one that people think of when they first think of Brainiac. I could see that. Two other names that they're supposedly in discussions with are completely different. David Hyde Pierce and Wallace Shawn. David Hyde Pierce was the voice of Abe Sapien in the Hellboy movies. He played Niles on Frasier. Totally different look. And then to go even further, Wallace Shawn is the inconceivable guy from Princess Bride. That's not what you think of as Brainiac. But again, this could be a CG motion capture character like the Hulk or Thanos. So it could have nothing to do with what the character looks like, just the presence and stuff they bring. That'd be the Dracula Jenna tried to get you to watch it. I haven't watched it yet either. I need to, because I like Mark Gatiss and Stephen Moffat. I like what they do. And if you don't know who Stephen Moffat is, he and Gatiss are the co-creators of Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch. He was a showrunner on Doctor Who, and Mark Gatiss, of course, also played more Mycroft on Sherlock. He just played Ted Gilbert on the Fantastic Four First Steps. So now, Mike, so I was thinking that, again, Gunn could go any direction. But I was trying to think of outside the box, and it gets interesting here. I thought, well, Gunn likes to rehire actors he's worked with. You named me Mycroft. Oh, okay. So one of the actors that he has worked with before, and I could see doing a great job in this, is Chukwudi Iwuji, who played Myrn in Peacemaker and High Evolutionary in Guardians 3. Um, Gunn has said that Chukwudi could return in a different role because technically Peacemaker season 1 is mostly canon, but they could twist little things here and there. So hang on one second. I want to see if that's what I think it is. Okay, so that's a possibility. Chukwudi. Another person that I think, if you want to do the whole keep hiring people he's worked with, how about Lee Pace, Ronan the Accuser? Lee is a big guy. He's got presence and gravitas. I think he could do the role of Brainiac so well. I think he would be amazing. And it's funny, as I think back to him, there are so many great roles that Lee Pace has played, but I can't help going back to Pushing Daisies with him. That's always what I think of Lee Pace as first. Just to throw another strange name out there, how about Christopher Eccleston? Wouldn't it be nice to see him get a villain he could really sink his teeth into that's like better than Malekith from Thor the Dark World or Destro from G.I. Joe? Give him something to really get into. I think he could be amazing at that. Those were the ones I thought of. But, hell, like I said, it really could be anybody because, how about some other names? How about Kevin Bacon? He's worked with Kevin Bacon before. Jim Parsons, Sheldon becomes Brainiac. Seems kind of obvious. Elliot Page, they've worked together before. That would be a totally different take on Brainiac. Bryan Cranston, everybody wanted him as Lex Luthor. How about him as Brainiac? See, I think all those characters could work. But again, we don't know what he's going for. So that's why Lee Pace is only 6'5". He's so small. Cute, Jay. So that's my thought on the Brainiac stuff. I like the idea of bringing the character in. I don't think we can really fan cast the character well. We can, like I said, I think there was some potential for all of those. I like the idea of Lewis Pullman. Lewis Pullman could be interesting. Mark Strong is another one. Dave Bautista. Bautista would be an interesting take, and continues Gunn's thing about hiring, rehiring people. But then again, he has to hire somebody the first time before he can rehire them, right? Now, I'm pretty sure there's only one name that I don't want to see as Brainiac, and that's Chris Pratt. There are some roles I'd be happy to see Chris Pratt get. I don't want to see him get Brainiac. No. Having someone taller than Superman would make the character a little bit more intimidating. True, and Lee Pace is taller than David Cornsweet by, is it an inch or two? I don't remember if Cornsweet was 6'3" or 6'4". But I could see Lee Pace being able to go toe-to-toe with David Cornsweet and Nicholas Hoult. Because you've got to remember, those are the people he's going up against. So, okay, 6'4". So you've got to have somebody who has presence. So, yeah, I could totally see Lee Pace being the right fit for that. Would you want to? He's doing a lot of stuff like that lately, showing up as villains and stuff, but that I think would be very cool. Plus, it gives him kind of a bigger bigger Ronan the Accuser was underused in the Marvel Universe to be a henchman. I think Lee should play, a lead. He should be the guy. So, yeah, that's my thought on that. So, all right, guys, this is the point of the show where I go, anything you guys want to talk about? Because I could kind of go on and on about things. I saw the announcement that Stephanie Phillips is doing a new Daredevil. And I'm so tired of new series, them starting series over. I remember going as a collector. I went out to get all of the Daredevil run because, go all the way back to before I was born and getting the early issues of Daredevil, working my way up and stuff. And then, there's a new number one. Oh, there's a new number one. Here we go. I like that, like, Action Comics and Detective Comics still have their original numbering, or they're back to their original numbering, but that's how it should be. If a book is just go on. These fake number ones over and over again, I'm not a fan of. So that's no knock on the creative team. I think Stephanie Phillips could probably kill it. I think she's going to do great. But I'm just tired of new number ones because it just seems like we just had one, didn't we? Anyway, I was thinking about one thing when it comes to characters in comics and success in it's just going off. Give me one quick second. Something delivered that Lisa has been waiting for. Let me just let her know. There. So I'm tired of the new number ones too, Mr. Nope says, and the multiple titles for the same character or teams of characters. Yeah. Those are some of my pet peeves. Stop doing number ones over and over again. Stop giving multiple books to one character. And stop giving the same hero name to multiple characters. Green Lantern's my one exception, but we don't need 3 Flashes. We don't need 2 Green Arrows. We don't need 3 Superman, multiple Batmans. Like, Batman is Bruce Wayne. If you kill him, fine. Then Dick Grayson can be Bruce Wayne or whoever you put in the costume. But then if he comes back, give back his name. How about Christian Bale as Brainiac? Yeah, I could see that. I think he could do a good job. Would he do it, though? I don't know. I'd be pretty pissed off after being wasted as Gore. So this was the point I was getting at. Villains. In the 60s, Marvel, and in the 50s and the 40s with DC, they made good villains. Now, were they, amazing? No, they made good, strong villains that they would use over and over again. And when the next writer came in, they would kind of add on to it and add on to it and add on to it. And you would build up these really good characters, The Riddler was created and then disappeared for 15 years after 2 appearances. And then when he showed back up, someone else kind of did this tweak and that tweak and made him a little better. He ended up on the TV show. Then he came back into the comics, back and forth. And now he's one of the most popular Batman villains. But modern writing, they're so focused on the hero and the angst and stuff, they really don't spend a lot of time creating good villains. Maybe Robert Kirkman's Invincible is the exception, or The Boys, but that's about the villains, in a lot of ways. When it comes to characters like, think about some of the heroes that have been created since the 70s, you know, or maybe starting with the 80s. You look at I don't know, Punisher. Does Punisher really have a true antagonist? Does Hawkeye? You know, when you look at these Marvel shows and stuff, half the time they're borrowing villains from Captain America or Iron Man. Who's Shang-Chi's big villain? Wenwu, the Mandarin. Well, that's Iron Man's villain. Who's Shang-Chi's villain? Oh, well, he doesn't really have a really good villain. Okay. Well, what about Ant-Man? Who are Ant-Man's? Well, there's Egghead, but we're going to throw him in the movie, but we're not really going to tell you that he's called Egghead or anything like that. But we're gonna use Ghost. Oh, from Iron Man. Okay. So you can see that certain people created good villains, and those are the books that last a long time. Iron Man's been coming out forever, and he's got great villains. Captain America has been coming out forever. He's got great villains. Spider-Man, Batman, Superman. Superman's villains aren't on the level of, I mean, a couple of them are, but overall, the collection of villains aren't on the level of Batman's. But he's got enough that you can bring them back and do stuff with them. And, you know, but you get these other books that have a hard time staying in print. Aquaman. Does Aquaman really have good villains? Well, you got Ocean Master, Black Manta, the Fisherman, King Shark. Are there any others? And Aquaman has a hard time keeping a book going. You know? Low tide. There you go. Pollution. Pollution is the big villain in Aquaman. And you see it with Marvel, like Namor. They tried to do a Namor comic. Namor doesn't have any villains. He is one. What's going on with Nova? Oh, we're going to do a Nova series. No, you're not, because you don't have anybody to throw against him. You need to think of good villains. Mr. Nope says, I think the guy who did Black Manta in the movies was great. Can't wait to see him in Wonder Man. Yeah. Yahya Mateen II, I think his name is. Yeah, I can't wait to see him in Wonder Man either. When I went to work with Jim Valentino on Shadowhawk, my pitch was creating a universe around Shadowhawk, creating a world around Shadowhawk. Yahya Abdul Mateen II. I forgot the Abdul part. So when I pitched Shadowhawk, I said, first, I don't want him to break backs right away, because I want that when he finally does it, it is a changing event. I said, I want to create some villains for him that were, you know, more than just throwaways. The first one was Killswitch. And he was, I don't think his name was Killswitch, but I made that joke, Killswitch Engaged. Yeah, but maybe it was Killswitch. But he was basically one of the first kids that Shadowhawk snaps the back of coming back in an armored suit. Then there was Atrocity and Chalk. I never got to do anything with Chalk. Chalk is one of my villains. It was my creation. And because he didn't show up, I get to keep him. And he's an amazing villain if I ever get a chance to use him. But that was my big thing, is to create that, but also create a supporting characters around him. Give Paul something to live for, you know, people connections and stuff. And even if, you know, the fact that, you know, a connection to the police captain and stuff like that. And yeah, he had kind of a Batman similarity, but I leaned into that instead of running away from it. Batman Admiral, how excited are you? Um, I'll be honest. It's probably the movie I am looking forward to the most at this point. I want to see the Avengers movies, but I've been kind of burned out on Marvel. Um, Thunderbolts was great. The Fantastic Four was okay. It just didn't feel like a full movie. Captain America was okay. Um, I just I don't have that excitement for Marvel, and it might be because there isn't an overall excitement for Marvel right now. But I came out of Superman so enthused, and then really enjoyed Peacemaker, and I'm really looking forward to what's next. So I'd say Man of Tomorrow, and I may be just a little more looking forward to the Batman Part 2 because that clicked on every single level for me, the first Batman. But they're kind of like 1A and 1B. So, and then the Avengers movies. But yeah, I'm very excited for Man of Tomorrow. If I got called and said, "Hey, you want to come and see, check out the set?" I'd get my way to Atlanta. Absolutely. Hey, we want you to do a cameo. Absolutely, I'm there. I'm looking forward to that. So, but yeah, I think nowadays writers don't spend enough time creating the villains, making villains that fans want to see again. Yeah, more than just dead comic guy. I'd be dead comic guy again. You know, I could play the same role. Yeah. Um, but I read some of the comics nowadays, and everybody wants to change things. You know, I mean, what are some of the great villains that have been created recently for Batman? Professor Pig. I don't even know how good he is. Hush. But what are some of the more recent ones? The Court of Owl guy. I'm not a big fan of the Court of Owls. So, but again, they're all based off of, well, Court of Owls. I think my problem with Court of Owls is how much it changes the history of Batman. I know Hush does too, but Hush changes a moment in Bruce's life that we've never experienced before. So for him to have a childhood friend prior to his parents' kill kind of makes sense. Oh, say hey to Kyle for me. Good luck with the show, Jay. And maybe I'll pop over if I get a chance after. I hope Matt Reeves does rogue spinoff villains like Two-Face, etc. Krypton, I would love that. I think there's talk about a second Penguin. I think what they ought to do is pick up from the Penguin with a story that is about him being arrested for killing, Maroni, stuff like that. Put him on trial, have Harvey Dent be the prosecutor, and you get somebody who can pull that character off. For some reason, I'm thinking Matt Bomer, but there's a lot of guys who could play him. Someone else I saw the other day too. They said that he would be good, and Oscar Isaac was somebody recommended for Harvey Dent. Anyway, and you have the Penguin be the one that throws the acid in the face because Maroni is gone. We don't have Maroni to do it anymore. And then you create Two-Face out of that. So, that's the reason for the second season of The Penguin is it's actually the origin story for Two-Face. And you don't have to worry about but you get to do this serious crime drama or this legal drama, and I think that would be kind of a neat place to play in, you know. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on that. Matt Reeves would be another interesting, the guy that played Perry Mason. I think he could be an interesting Harvey Dent Two-Face. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. Keanu Reeves as Two-Face? I'd almost want to see him as Brainiac. I could see Keanu Reeves as Brainiac. I don't know about his Two-Face. But maybe. Yeah. Huh. Richard Madden would be a good choice, too. I like that. I do like that. Richard Madden is actually somebody that I had fan casted as Hush because he's right around the same age as Robert Pattinson. And I thought Billy Elliot should be around the same age as Tommy Elliott, excuse me. Billy Elliot was the dancer. Tommy Elliott was right around the same age as Bruce, so should be the same. Oh, yeah, Keanu Reeves as Brainiac. I could totally see that. Yeah, but yeah, I think I'd love to see Madden as Hush. We talked about Cleus Bang as Brainiac earlier. That's the one of the people that they're supposedly in talks for. So we'll see if that actually comes out. But I could totally see that. When I looked at him, I went, yeah, I can see that. But then there's two other names, the David Hyde Pierce and Wallace Shawn. I'm like, you put the three of them together, no one's going to go, yeah, that's not a good lineup. You know? Mads Mikkelsen for Two-Face, I think he's a little too old at this point. I have this knee-jerk reaction that I don't want my characters that I want to see around for multiple movies to be that old at this point. You know, I'm not sure about Hal Jordan being as old as Kyle, as the actor is that is playing him, because I want more Hal Jordan stories. You know, it just throws me off when you cast that much older. So I wanted somebody who could be around for 10 years and doing movies. But I do like Mads Mikkelsen a lot. And not just because he hung out and had a smoke with me once in San Jose. But yeah. All right, guys, we are just about at the end of the show. As always, please sign up for the Obsidian Moon mailing list. You can find it on danwickline.com. It's the very first listing. I am still working on Chaos Game, which will be the first book in Obsidian Moon. I'm hoping to wrap that up by the end of the year and get around to kickstarting it. Also, if there is a topic you want me to cover, let me know. You can post here. You can post on Facebook, on YouTube. You can contact me through social media and say, hey, Dan, I was wondering if you could rank all the MCU movies from worst to best, in your opinion. Yeah, we could make that happen. Hey, Dan, what would you do with this character or this actor? And yeah, I'm up for those kind of conversations. So if you got something you'd like to talk about, I'm all ears. Or you want to follow up with something I said here, please feel free. Otherwise, I will see you guys next Sunday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, hopefully after another Carolina Panther win. Actually, they're playing on Monday night, so yeah. So I'll be in a good mood either way because they won't have played yet. But thank you guys for tuning in. Remember to hit the like buttons, the subscribe buttons, all that stuff. And I'll see you guys next week. Have a great weekend. Get ready for the holidays.